I'm breaking with my usual upload schedule for this week because here in the Alps we've passed a very grim milestone and something has to change. So far this season, across the whole of Europe, we've seen a whopping 121 avalanche fatalities. And if my maths is correct, that means we've seen at least 105 in the Alps alone, which is a truly staggering number. On average, Europe sees around about 100 avalanche deaths throughout an entire year across the entire continent of Europe. Naturally, most of these will happen in the Alps, and most of them will happen during the ski season. But even so, you'd usually expect around about 50 skiing-related avalanche fatalities during the ski season in the Alps. We have already more than doubled that number, and we're only just halfway through the season. This is truly, truly shocking. We have seen at least 32 fatalities in Italy, 30 here in France, 24 in Austria, 15 in Switzerland, and at least 3 in Slovenia. And these are conservative estimates. They'll almost certainly be out of date by the time I'm publishing this video. And this is data from the European Avalanche Warning Service, which is the official authority on all such things. And there's always a lag of a few days between them publishing the data and the actual numbers. So you can expect that number is probably a few higher already. Nearly all of these deaths have occurred since the start of the Christmas holidays. The EAWS starts their season from the 1st of October, but virtually all of these incidents have happened since mid-December, since the start of the ski season. So to put that in perspective, that means we've been seeing more than one fatality per day throughout the entirety of the ski season since Christmas. So if you've just been out here on your ski holiday for your February half term, chances are in the 6 or 7 days that you were here, there were somewhere between 12 to 15 people being killed by avalanches, and that is not a good number. Now, the purpose of this video isn't to tell you how to go out and ski avalanche terrain safely. I don't want to be doing that. I don't want to be encouraging people and enabling people to go out and take risks. The purpose of this video is simply to raise awareness, because clearly we're not getting the message across. And to prove the altruism of my intent, I've demonetized this video. I'm not making a penny out of this, so please share it far and wide. Everybody that you know, share this video with them. Let's really get the message out there that this has to stop. Let's try and save some lives while we still can. To give you some kind of context, the deadliest season in the Alps, in peacetime at least, was 1950-51, the Winter of Terror, where there were at least 265 avalanche-related deaths across the ski season, but the vast majority of those occurred just within December. During that season, there are at least 649 recorded avalanches across the Alps. Now, this season, we've seen over 100 already, so if that projection continues, we're expected to see over 200 avalanche deaths throughout this year, which would still be less than the 265 during the Winter of Terror, but that would put it as probably the second deadliest season on record. Bear in mind, virtually all of those fatalities which occurred during the 50s, they were natural disasters. They were freak accidents. That was entire towns and villages getting buried by natural spontaneous avalanches. Thankfully, we haven't seen one of those this season. This season has not been exceptional at all in terms of snowfall. There have been a few complicating factors which have made it more dangerous, but in terms of the volume of snow we've had this year, it has not been exceptional at all. Every single one of the avalanche deaths we have seen this year has been skiers, snowboarders, climbers, snowshoers, occasionally snowmobilers, going somewhere they shouldn't, doing something that they shouldn't be doing. So unfortunately, and this is harsh to say, but these are people who've gone out and got themselves killed. These were not accidents. So whereas in years gone by we have seen very deadly seasons, those have almost exclusively involved natural disasters. We've not seen one natural disaster this year. Every single one has been an avoidable death. The deadliest season ever in the Alps was during the First World War, December 1916, specifically December the 13th, White Friday, which coincidentally was actually a Wednesday. But there we saw somewhere in the region of 2,000 soldiers killed by avalanches on one day alone. Across the whole of December, potentially as much as 10,000 soldiers were killed by avalanches on the Italian front in the Alps. But of course, that is an exceptional case. That is due to war. Many of those avalanches were natural. That was a freak year. They saw somewhere between 3 to 4 meters of snow in a very short period of time, followed by rapid warming. But equally, the opposing armies were shelling above each other's positions, deliberately trying to cause avalanches, which is why the number of fatalities was just astronomical. Thankfully, hopefully, we'll never see something like that again. But in the Winter of Terror, 1950-51, they saw between 3 to 5 meters of snowfall accumulating within just 2 to 3 days. Now, this season we have seen big snowfalls. Just the other week we saw 2 to 3 metres of snow fall within about 10 days, but that is absolutely nothing in comparison to what they saw in 1950-51. Combine that with the fact that they didn't really have the avalanche awareness back then that we have now. People were building in places that were dangerous, which were prone to avalanches. There wasn't the same level of avalanche protection up on the mountain that we have now. So to even be talking about this year anyway remotely in comparison to that season is just outrageous. We should not be in this position now in this day and age with all the information that we have available to us, all the preventative measures that are ongoing up on the mountain, all the warnings, etc, etc. This should just simply not be happening. As a community, we've never been better informed than we are now in terms of the avalanche risk. You've got all the information you could possibly want at your fingertips, at the press of a button. And not only that, it is absolutely everywhere in resort as well. Virtually every single base station will have big signs telling you of the avalanche risk on the scale of 3 out of 5. And virtually every lift as well will either have a digital or analog sign of some kind telling you what level the avalanche risk is. Potentially with a blackboard telling you more specific information about what kind of hazards there are. So we really cannot be blaming the ski industry itself. The resorts are warning us. They are telling you not to go out into the off-piste. Indeed, this season we have seen an unprecedented 3 back-to-back category 5 out of 5 avalanche warnings. Some resorts were just plain closed for days at a time. Others were telling people explicitly, do not ski off of the waymarked trails, do not go into the off-piste. And yet, what were people doing? Charging off into the powder at the first opportunity. So we really have nothing to blame but ourselves. The most dangerous day during a storm cycle is not the storm itself, it's the first bluebird powder day after the storm has passed, where it's almost like people have just been let loose, the shackles are off, everyone just goes absolutely mad, charging to get to the powder, charging to get fast tracks, charging to get their first line down that iconic line, without a single care in the world for their own safety or for the safety of everybody around them. And this is totally unacceptable. Yes, sure, there are some resorts where it is safe to ski powder even in a high avalanche risk day. I'm not going to tell you why and how you would know this. This is something you need to gain this experience for yourselves. But just because you see some people skiing powder on high risk days doesn't mean that it is safe for you to be skiing powder absolutely anywhere. Most resorts, no matter how good you are, no matter how much knowledge you have, you can't mitigate all the risks on a high risk 4 out of 5, 5 out of 5 avalanche day. So simply, just stay on the pistes. The deadliest season in the Alps in recent history was in 2010, which was a particularly cold, a particularly snowy season. If you remember back there, that was an absolutely amazing season for skiing. There's tons of snow. Even in the UK, the entirety of the UK was blanketed in snow for nearly the entire month of December. The Alps had even more. So that was a very, very snowy season. So it's not surprising there were a lot of avalanche fatalities that year. Even then, there was only 164 across the entirety of Europe in the entirety of the year. And like I say, we're well on course to surpass that in just a few months of the ski season just in the Alps. And going back a little further, avalanche fatalities were consistently higher in the 70s and 80s, 1985 being the peak of that particular period. But on average, throughout that period, Europe as a whole saw around about 130 avalanche deaths across the year. That then saw a steady decline through the 90s to where we are now in the 20s and 2010s with an average of around about 100 a year, and that has stayed fairly consistent since the start of the 2000s. Now, there's always a little bit of a risk when you're looking back at data of correlation versus causation. We can't really say for sure why the avalanches happened a certain way back in time, but when you consider the 70s and 80s were the first big boom of the ski industry, especially here in the Alps, where it was becoming much more affordable for people to go skiing. Many ski areas were being developed during the 70s and 80s. Many new ski areas were appearing as well. So it's quite understandable really that is when the avalanche fatalities peaked here in Europe. The first avalanche beacon was invented in 1968 and went into production in 1961. So that's when avalanche safety really started to increase. But it wasn't really until the late 90s, early 2000s, when beacons became digital, they became much more widespread. And clearly you can see since then, it has become a little bit safer. Also, the GazX avalanche control system, those big pipes you'll see on the mountains absolutely everywhere, they were invented in 1987, 88, and became much more widespread throughout the 90s. So there is cause to say that the reason why the avalanche fatalities came down during the 90s and early 2000s is because of increased avalanche safety. But of course, we can never say this with absolute certainty. But in spite of the fact that avalanche fatalities do appear to have been coming down a little bit more over the last 5 years or so, we do now appear to have a pandemic of well-equipped and skilled idiots up on the mountains. A little bit of knowledge and a little bit of information is arguably more dangerous than no knowledge and no information at all. People who have absolutely no understanding of the avalanche risk generally behave. They stick to the pistes, or they hire people who know what they're doing. It's the people who have a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of understanding, they have all the equipment. We've never been better equipped than we are now. It's never been as easy as it is now to get into the backcountry. We've got a plethora of people who have the skills and the equipment to put themselves in danger without the grey matter to realise they're putting themselves in danger and to not go there in the first place. And that is the real concern right now. The majority of fatalities we have seen this year has been people who are fully equipped. They've got their beacon, they've got their probe, they've got their shovel. Plenty of them also have airbags. These things are an absolute last resort. They are not to be relied upon. They are not an invincibility jacket. Yes, they do increase your chances of survival if you are buried in an avalanche, but they won't save you if you're avalanched over a cliff, if you're avalanched into a tree or a boulder, or if you're buried 5 meters down in the bottom of a ravine. So you should never be thinking it's okay to ski a line because I am well equipped and me and my buddies know what we're doing. You should always think, would I ski this with zero equipment? If that answer is no, then just get away, don't ski it at all. It doesn't matter what equipment you have, you should always treat every single line that you ride as if you're carrying no equipment at all. The industry as a whole definitely has something to answer for here. They've been convincing people for a while now that the more money you spend on your equipment, the safer you're going to be and the more risks you can take, and that is just simply wrong. And the pros have a lot to answer for here as well. It's all too common for us to see them glorifying their near misses, glorifying their mistakes, glorifying their recoveries and their rescues, rather than saying, damn, I was an idiot today, don't copy me. They are setting a really bad example for the masses, because the pros, of course, are much more skilled than everybody else. Generally speaking, they also have better equipment, and more importantly than that, they've got teams of people around them, spotting them. They've often got medical crews ready on standby, especially in obviously things like the Freeride World Tour. There's an entire safety team, safety network around them there. But even when people are just off on their own photo shoots, they will have a safety team with them. Not only will there be their buddies on the mountain with them, riding behind them, ready to dig them out if necessary, there'll also often be a crew somewhere near the bottom, should the worst happen, to dig them out as well. Even then, they still shouldn't be putting themselves in this kind of risk. But that is the industry we live in. These people are paid to take those risks. For the rest of us, we're not paid to take those risks. We haven't got that big safety cushion around us. So people should not be taking those kind of risks. And the pros should not be glorifying the risks that they are taking. We've had nearly 2 weeks of dry, stable weather now since the last big storm. The avalanche risk has reduced dramatically in that time. Many places officially are at avalanche 2 out of 5. Some are still at avalanche 3 out of 5, but a lot of places have now gone down to 2 out of 5. But even so, most avalanche fatalities, over 50%, occur on a 3 out of 5 avalanche risk day. So it's when people are at their most complacent that when most of these incidents happen. And a significant number still happen on 2 out of 5 avalanche risk days, far more than happen on 5 out of 5. Of course, that is a numbers game. Far fewer people are out skiing powder on a 5 out of 5 day than they are on a 2 out of 5 day. But still, 2 out of 5 is safer, but it's still not completely safe. You still need to know what you're doing, you still need to know where you're going, you still need to be mitigating all those risks. If you've made it this far, then hopefully this video has triggered something within you to think more carefully about what you're doing and what kind of risks you're taking in the mountains. If you are inexperienced, then the best thing for you to do is go on an avalanche awareness course. Spend a day or two out with a guide in the mountains and ask him questions. Yes, you can watch videos, yes, you can read books, but there is no substitute for hands-on real-life experiences. So get out there, but do it in a safe manner, with guides, with the professionals. And if you are on a course, make sure it's something where they are actually teaching you the fundamentals of how to avoid avalanches in the first place, not just simply a course on how to carry out a rescue. Of course, rescues are important. They're an integral tool in all our off-piste skill sets. It's something we should be practicing every season. I'll admit I'm probably guilty of not practicing it enough, but prevention is far better than cure. The only way to truly ensure you don't die in an avalanche is not to avalanche in the first place. Even all the skills or experience, all the equipment in the world will not save everybody 100% of the time. But not getting avalanche in the first place will save you 100% of the time. So it's as simple as that really. Develop your skill set, develop your tools, and gain that experience in an organic way, safely, with the right people. So once again, a reminder, I'm not making any money out of this. I'm trying to save lives here. So please, 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 share this video, share this message far and wide. Absolutely everybody you know, share it in Facebook groups, share it on WhatsApp chats, share it with your friends, share it with your family, etc. Let's get this message out there. Let's try and stop this downward spiral that we're currently in of every time there's a big dump of snow, more and more people are dying left, right and centre. And please stay safe yourselves and have fun.